everyone. Thank you for listening to me sharing my experiences after having a sudden right-sided hearing loss. My career for almost 50 years has been in the audiology field, mainly as a hearing aid practitioner, so testing hearing, fitting hearing aids and aural rehabilitation, both in the government and private practice. For the last almost 20 years, I ran a hearing clinic with a business partner audiologist, and I retired a few months ago, and Soundfair has taken over our practice. 11 years ago in the evening, I was sitting on my couch relaxing when I noticed a very loud roaring tinnitus in the right ear. I went to bed, and when I woke up the next morning, the tinnitus was still roaring in the right ear. I couldn't hear the dial tone from my phone. After urgently having my hearing tested at work, I discovered that I had a moderate sensorineural hearing loss in the right ear with poor speech discrimination. The left hearing was normal. I took myself off to the eye and ear hospital and was administered steroids. My hearing recovered over the next few days, but I experienced severe vertigo and was hospitalised for a couple of days. The vertigo took a few weeks to fully recover. My hearing remained normal bilaterally for about 6 months. I was unwell with a cold and also had a right middle ear infection. I was at home in the evening when I started vomiting and also had severe vertigo and again the roaring right-sided tinnitus. I was taken to the eye and ear hospital by ambulance. The nausea subsided after several days, but the spinning vertigo and tinnitus remained. Unfortunately, the hearing in the right ear had deteriorated to a profound sensorineural hearing loss. Medical investigations couldn't give a conclusive cause for the sudden hearing loss, but as I do have autoimmune disease, this is probably the most likely cause. The first time I went socially to a restaurant after acquiring my hearing loss was a frightening experience. I found the background noise to be excessive and caused my right ear to almost pulsate with tinnitus. It was also extremely difficult to follow conversation. Boy, oh boy, could I sympathise with my hard of hearing clients. Shortly after the noisy restaurant experience, I went to enjoy some live musical theatre. Firstly, the crowded foyer was so rowdy, I couldn't even follow conversation with one person close up. The orchestra didn't sound as it used to be. It was very harsh and set the tinnitus off too. I couldn't follow the singing and the dialogue was difficult to understand. It's surprising that having a unilateral hearing loss can be so debilitating, but I have lost 50% of my hearing. So in that context, I suppose it's understandable. Over the years, I've learned to cope better in a difficult listening situation, although I do miss out a lot, and I've always used the captions when I'm watching television. I've had the opportunity to trial many different hearing devices. I can't use a hearing aid in the right ear due to the severity of the hearing loss and complete lack of speech understanding, even with the most powerful hearing aid. I've tried many crossover hearing aids, and although speech is a little more audible from the right side, it doesn't help me to hear better in a noisy place. So what cross aids do is they route sound from the better ear to the poorer hearing side, and they have a microphone on the poorer side. My hearing is almost normal in the left ear. I have found that clients accept the cross aids better if they have some hearing loss in the better ear. An option for me could be to consider a cochlear implant for the right ear. One of my concerns would be that localization or directional hearing, my directional hearing might not be rectified. This requires further investigation on my part. One of my main issues is the difficulty I have with localization of sounds. I cannot tell the difference of where sounds are coming from. It's very frustrating when the phone rings and I can't find it, or when someone calls me and I don't know where they're calling from, particularly when the answer is, I'm here. neural mapping doesn't usually work well in an older person, and now I'm an older person. As I always must walk on the right side of people, my friends drag me off the walking path when I don't hear bicycles behind me. My friends are very courteous and aware of my hearing loss. They say I've trained them well. Family, not always so. They have a memory of me with normal hearing. Using a hearing aid in the good ear connected wirelessly to a remote microphone worn by another person does help me to understand conversation in a noisy situation, but only enables conversation between myself and one other. There are other devices which can help others with bilateral hearing loss, but after extensive trials, I have not found them to benefit me in noisy environments. I recall one evening when I was out with family in a noisy restaurant and my softly fast-speaking daughter wore the remote microphone. I was excited. I could understand every word she said. And when I went off to the toilet many metres away, I could hear the family plotting my next birthday celebrations. After this experience, I fitted many of my clients with remote microphones connected to their hearing aids. It's particularly useful between couples in everyday situations around the home. One very elderly fellow always used it when he went to lunch in a restaurant with his former secretary once a month. He found the outing was a highlight for him as he could hear so well. His family members used it as well with great success. I recall a couple who loved dancing. He was very tall and she short. Conversation was easier using a remote microphone connected to his hearing aids. Wirelessly connected to his hearing aids. I have also encouraged reluctant hearing aid users on occasion by explaining how I would love to be able to hear as well as they do with their aids, and how fortunate they are to be able to have this opportunity to hear better. In many cases, it did help, and over time, they've become better communicators. Hearing aids have also improved a great deal technologically over the years, thank goodness. Of course, people having differing lifestyles and hearing. Of course, people have differing lifestyles and hearing requirements. Since acquiring a hearing loss myself, I feel I can empathise and also have been able to give personal real-life experience when working with my hearing impaired clients. I hope this has been of benefit to them. Thank you for listening to my story.